I'd like to call the Township of North Huntington Board of Commissioners regular meeting Wednesday, March 21st, 2008, 7 p.m. Roll call. Manager Silka.
Commissioner Harold. Here. Commissioner Bertani.
Here.
Commissioner Blasco.
Here.
Commissioner Martino.
Here.
Commissioner Bevan.
Here.
Commissioner Casera.
Here.
Commissioner Higas.
Here. Could everyone please rise for pledge of allegiance and the opening prayer by Reverend Terry Irwin of Norwin Christian Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for a unique way to start spring. Kind of sets us up for April Fool's Day to remember your son lives. Fooled everybody, except those who are faithful. And so, Father, I thank you for that truth. And Father, I thank you for the warmth and the comfort that you bless us with in spite of the atmospheric conditions that are outside, even in spring. Father, just now be with those who lead, those who guide, those who direct this township. Pray, Father, for her citizenry, that those who bring concerns, those who bring requests, Father, will be greeted with compassion and wisdom, understanding. Father, that there will be a spirit of cooperation and justice, Father, in a way that honors you and that serves this community best. Father, we're very mindful of those who are first responders in light of all the incidents that we read about and see in the media. Father, may they have a special blessing even this evening, Father, in concerns for all the things that they are so regularly and diligently involved with. But Father, for this meeting, I ask your guidance, Father, your direction, your spirit, and Father, for peace among all who would come together, Father, to serve and to honor you through this community. I ask all this in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. I have a sick daughter, so I gotta sorry.
If any residents would like to speak tonight, you can sign the book at the podium. Thank you. The first resident is Robert Schuster.
Robert Schuster, 8958 Hill Drive, North Huntington. I just wondered if you got any answers for me from last week's meeting where I asked to have a meeting with the township and our people. Thank you.
The next resident is Joseph Garrick.
First off, Commissioner Blasco, did you get my email pictures?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I was here last week addressing issues. First off, Valley View Drive coming down, that pipe sticking out of the hillside that's created a trench that runs right down into my property and is destroying my driveway. Last year they said there were supposed to be measures in place to disperse that water. The only measures I see is a rotted log laying across it. I asked about that last week. It wasn't addressed. Secondly, I addressed last week that clouded water coming out of that storm drain off of Park Hill Road. The rocks in the creek are all clouded and white, and the water coming into the creek is clouding the water a bluish gray. That was not addressed last week when I mentioned it. Main thing I'm here for again is my situation with the flooding. You had mentioned last week that my property was built before there was stormwater management. My question is, was stormwater management put in place to ignore existing structures and properties? Second of all, you say that that's my property, my problem. The Stormwater Act of 1978, Act 167, was developed to mitigate and reduce the effects of stormwater. I believe it's accelerated it. When I moved in that house 6 years ago, my bridge was completely intact, my property was completely intact. First 2 years, I had one flood on a torrential downpour. In the last 4 years, I've been flooded 7-8 times a year. I would like to know what has changed upstream in the last 4 to 5 years. I believe I've asked that question several times before. Stormwater management is to mitigate and reduce damage. I believe your stormwater management has expedited damage to my property. As far as cleaning that channel out, you guys say that that's my responsibility. Well, that is a generally the homeowner or private owner's responsibility to maintain drainage ditches unless specifically designed as a public or municipal drainage easement. You stated last week that 1/3 of North Huntington Township drains into that creek. I believe that makes it your easement. It's silting up, it's shallow, it's got parts of it that are almost tapered up to the beach. It hasn't been touched in the 6 years I'm there, causing more water to get forced into my property. I have a trench in my front yard where my grass used to be. And I have a permit to replace my bridge. I think that at least that replacing that bridge should be a shared responsibility between me and the township.
Thank you. Our last resident tonight was Paul Reynolds.
Yes. The neighbor, I also share that bridge. I share the responsibility. As Joe was saying, the 8 years that I've been there, the first 2 years there was no flooding whatsoever. The bridge was not touched. And slowly it's gotten worse. In the past 4 years, it has, as Joe has stated, in the past 4 years, at least 8 times a year. It's already happened 3 or 4 times this year, and it's only March. We haven't hit the rainy season yet. I've repatched that driveway, but every time it rains, it doesn't come from the bridge. It's being dispersed out through both pieces of property, 3 properties, coming over 3 properties and washing out. It's totally destroyed the yard where he is. Picked up chunks of the entire asphalt that I've laid, picked it up and dropped it on the bankside. So I can't afford to just keep replacing it and have it just keep getting washed away from the amount of water that is coming down that way. Also, most of Park Hill, I know it's a state road, but it's falling into the creek. There's so much water coming at it that it can't handle it. And it's, as Joe was saying, it's getting shallower and shallower and shallower. There are so many rocks that are being built up. There's this white silt that I have no idea what is causing it. It's flowing from other parts of that creek into our creek, into our side of the creek. The other neighbor's bridge, Tom, I'm not sure what Tom's last name is, his bridge is totally washing away. It's being destroyed as well, and it's going to just come down and cause more trouble for us because it's going to push all that more towards us. And because of that, there's also a whole lot of rock buildup. And as Joe stated from Valley View, there's that water that's coming down the back way, and it's caused a knee-deep rut valley that has just totally destroyed that. And it's just getting worse and worse. And every time we try to approach it and deal with it, we're told that it's our problem. But I know that in the past 4 years, it has gotten exponentially worse. And every time we try to speak about it, the last meeting I was able to get to, I felt like I was just being like, okay, go away now. We were given advice on what to do by the engineer of the town, saying that, oh, build another driveway across 3 other properties. That'll solve the problem. Well, that's where it's the wettest. And it's not my property to have a right of way to say I'm going to build a driveway across your property anyway. There's no way for us to get to the house. My children were coming home one night and we couldn't get them in. I couldn't get out to get them. The bridge totally flooded. I mean, that entire driveway flooded over. There was no way for me to get. If anything happened, if there was an emergency, there would have been no way for anybody to get to us or for us to get out. So something has to be. There has to be a solution to this problem. And as Joe said, I think because of all the water that's coming, to township water, the water relief, a lack of words right now, but it's not fully our responsibility. There has to be some way to help solve this problem. And it's been something that's been happening now and getting worse and worse and worse in the 8 years that I've been there, but mostly in the past 6. It's just continually getting harder and harder our property value has totally, I feel like my property is not going to be worth anything. Not that I want to sell it, but it's losing its value. And I hate to see that happen. Thank you.
Thanks. Response to citizens input. Mr. Schuster was first tonight. I haven't got a date yet that the board can meet with you, but as soon as I get that, I'll have Manager Silk reach out to you and see if that would work for you. Next 2 residents about flooding issues on Park Hill. Any board response to any of that? Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
So like I mentioned, I shared the pictures that Joe, you had shared with me with the rest of the board, and I didn't know if Andy had anything to add on to that in regards to the hydraulic flow going through that pipe. But I think one of the biggest concerns we have to figure out is what is actually the cause of this flooding before we could look at potential solutions. And until we identify that, I don't see a way to find a solution yet.
Cause of the flooding is simple: too much water. We were very late to the game on stormwater management. I don't know why. I can't speak to the history. Maybe somebody here was around then and knows. Mr. Gergic said, and he's correct, that the state passed the Stormwater Management Act in 1978. We did not pass the Stormwater Management Act until 15 years later in 1993. But most of the development in that watershed is Markview Manor and Jacktown Acres, both of which were built in the 60s. Norwin Town Square was also a substantial amount of impervious area, which was built before there were any requirements for stormwater management. The plans that have come along since then, I'm thinking Lincoln Point. There were maybe 6-7 lots on Jenny Drive. Willow Glen and Willow Estates both flow down into that watershed. Dartmoor Estates, part of that flows into that watershed. They have stormwater management. Why things have gotten so much worse in the last few years, I think it's largely because we're seeing more intense storms than we used to. I used to be able to tell you by date the storms that really registered here with phone calls and complaints. They're so frequent anymore, I can't even begin to keep track of them. In the summer, it's once every couple of weeks. Used to be one serious storm every couple of years. So it is more intense, it is more frequent. Something that I've wondered about for a long time, I'll throw this out, is would the Board of Commissioners consider a reduced release rate percentage township-wide? Whatever your calculated pre-development flow is, your post-development flows should be half of that. Penn Township did that a number of years ago when they had area-wide flooding problems. The idea is to try and make up for the old areas that didn't have stormwater management when they were built. You're paying for past sins, if you will. But it's been done in other municipalities. We already have that in the Turtle Creek watershed. It's not 50%. It varies by sub-basin, but it's anywhere from 50 to 80% release rates if you're flowing to Brush Creek. My thought would be maybe we just say across the board it's 50%. In time, as things are redeveloped, that may make a difference.
Any other board comments or questions for Andy?
If we did the reduced rate, I'm not going to say it will alleviate the problem, because I've been down through there. I know exactly what it's like down there on Park Hill. But maybe it'll make it a lot less of flooding. Maybe it'll stay within the boundaries of that creek. Maybe.
It could take a couple decades to have an impact.
Yeah.
I've also advocated the thought of taking that undeveloped land that's between Lincoln Way and Wainwright, that is all floodplain, that can never be built in terms of homes, and see if we couldn't do some type of a detention pond there. While the land's available, the problem is we've got to somehow design something that's not online, not on the creek. It's got to be off to the side of the creek. If it's online in the creek, DEP considers it a dam, and then you get into an incredible amount of regulatory requirements. But if you could do something off to the side of the creek, that land may be available at a fairly reasonable price. Anything we could do would help. But that all comes with a price tag. I will say this, and I've said this before, Mr. Gergic knows this too. his culvert is a 4-foot diameter pipe. The PennDOT bridge, which was replaced in 1988, is 5 feet high by 21 feet wide. Either their bridge is incredibly over-designed, or if their bridge is right, his culvert is incredibly under-designed. Now, maybe the storms have gotten worse in the last few years, but there's a great disproportion between the capacity of those two structures. And actually, downstream of the PennDOT bridge and before it gets to Mr. Gerges' driveway, there's yet another stream that comes in that comes down Park Hill Road from the opposite side of Lincoln Way.
Lincoln Way, right.
So there's even more flow that's added. Even if they were the same capacity, I'm not sure it would be right. So as you do replace that, you need to be thinking big. Just the fact that that's a 4-foot diameter. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I have a permit to replace that bridge with 2 4-foot pipes. That's the biggest I can put. I can't go any bigger diameter because of bedrock. My question, once that water goes through my yard and back into the creek, it stays in the creek.
Mm-hmm.
Do that upstream. Even if you reduce the amount of water, I realize I've already spoke, I appreciate this opportunity.
Sir, could you come to the podium so we can hear you on the microphone?
State your name again.
Once that water goes through my yard and does its damage and goes back into the creek right downstream of my bridge, it stays in the creek. It's done. It's no more flooding. Why can't you make from my bridge up to that bridge on Park Hill, that depth, that width, whatever? I mean, it's silting in. It's getting shallower and less capacity every time it rains. And that's 3 properties. The guy on the hill, that's the bottom of his yard. He could care less if that floods every time it sprinkles. So he's not going to do anything about that. Something needs to be done. I need to replace my bridge. You guys are talking reducing stormwater, 10-year plan, whatever. Probably this year, I'm not going to have access to my property. Three houses will not have access to their property. So I need to know, I don't want to replace my bridge and have it get washed out the first flood, or have it continue to destroy my property. I can't afford to keep replacing and repairing. It's just too much. And I don't want to leave my house, but it's a consideration. And the house behind me has been empty for 6 years. There you get that, their right of way, that's where that 3-foot deep trench is coming down into my driveway. I haven't seen them. I don't know what their intentions are, so I'm dealing with that. I mean, I'm just getting hit on both ends. I need to know before I replace my bridge that something's going to happen, that it's not going to get washed out and destroyed in the next couple of years.
Andy, is there any way we can, I know you said about retention pond on Wainwright. How about down there off of Park Hill? Is there anywhere we could put a retention pond that might help to catch the water in one big area?
We have a neighbor, Tom, who doesn't live there. He probably would sell his property for pretty cheap. He's in his 80s, and he comes up once or twice a year to cut his grass. The rest of the time, we cut his grass for him. And it's all in the front of that. I should imagine he'd probably let it go for a small price.
That's just a thought, Andy, that's all.
It's something we could look at. I always feel like at that point it's too little too late. You're so far down in the watershed. And when there's a major storm, I wouldn't want to set foot in that water. It would sweep you away.
Oh, yeah.
Flooded for 12 hours that one night. So my daughter couldn't come home either. It was flooded from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. No one could come or go. You were just stuck at your house.
And it doesn't have to be a torrential rain any longer. It's just almost any rain that we get, it floods.
All right.
The other question would be if we'd want to investigate what it would take, permit-wise, cost-wise, to try and dredge that stream channel. But if the driveway culvert isn't of roughly the same capacity as the PennDOT bridge, it's just going to back up flow behind it.
It floods before the bridge floods. The property and everything else floods around well before our bridge floods.
What I have seen, and I've been there and watched the water rise and come over the bank, that stream channel gets fuller and fuller and fuller, and it reaches the point where the water can't be contained in the channel anymore and it spills over. Once that happens, it's not going through your driveway culvert. It's going all across the yards and coming in, as you said, below the driveway.
Before the bridge.
Yes.
And the bridge they wanna put in is an amazing bridge. It's going to cut out the bend, so I think the water's gonna get through faster. But our fear is that Tom's Bridge isn't gonna be wide, and he's in his 80s. He has no plan of replacing his bridge, and if you come down there now and look behind his bridge where there is no cement, there is a big hole, and eventually that bridge is going to collapse.
What happens in these storms when your culvert is overtopped? Does the same thing happen with his?
Oh, it's all through.
I've sat on my front porch and watched this many times. What happens is first it starts up on Park Hill Road. It starts coming over and pulling up in that property. And long before my bridge or Tom's bridge is completely underwater, it's coming through my yard. There's just that stream from your PennDOT bridge to Tom's bridge is just too shallow. There's just, before it even floods over Tom's bridge, it's coming through, it's starting to come through the yard. Then it just snowballs and then starts getting worse and worse, and then eventually there's a river running through my front yard, goes right back into the creek, right downstream of my bridge, and as I said, once it goes back in the creek, it stays in the creek. There's plenty of room, it's not an issue.
It's blocking the water.
Now, I can certainly take a look at that, see if the
I
Conservation
think we
District
need
would
to
have
trust
any
Nelson.
opinions on what would it take and would it be effective.
Within reason.
My feeling with dredging streams is if you do it, it's got to be for some distance. You can't just get in there and dig out a little pocket. Next big storm, it just fills back in again. You're wasting your time. But if it's something where maybe there's a localized restriction or something that's causing that silt to back up, maybe that's something we can try and evaluate.
I appreciate that. If you can, just let us know when you can get back to us with that, with the Conservation District. I was gonna ask you if you could reach out to them. I'm sure they are aware of the problem. I think they've been out there before,
They have.
so.
They have.
But I do agree with you, Andy. If we're putting a larger pipe into a smaller pipe, it's gonna naturally back up and find a low spot and try to find a new route to go. Any other board comments on the flooding issue on Park Hill Road?
I just think if we can help them people, we need to do what we can to help them and within reason.
All right, approval of minutes, special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Regular meeting is 21st of 18.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Payment of bills.
I make a motion, we pay voucher number 75819 through voucher number 75921.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Staff reports, Mr. Albert. Any questions for Public Works?
No, sir.
Anything?
No, I don't have any much to report this evening. Obviously, with the snow, the last 18 hours, we've been quite busy. I thought maybe I could have some numbers for you to kind of give you an idea where we sit this winter budgetary for winter maintenance. And we weren't looking all that bad up until last night. And I'm going to have to recalculate. So.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of frustrating. The only salt and ice I hope to see is on top of margarita glass right now. It's moving forward. So, but everything went well in the last 18 hours or so. There was no major damage.
Good.
Tell everybody good job, Rich.
Thank you. Spring's here, so it won't last.
Thank you. Moving on, Parks and Recreation report, Mr. Miller. Any questions on Park and Recreation report?
Just want to comment that I saw the new fitness equipment at Indian Lake, and I'm interested to try some of that stuff out there. It looks really confusing, but once the snow melts off it, I think it's a great addition to the park there.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Blasco.
Mr. Miller, I actually did have one resident to actually call, and it's funny you bring up Indian Lake. They were asking, I guess, the front gate park, the entrance, I guess, off was locked, and they had to go around, I guess, to the back, the park. They were just wondering why.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this past off-season, from just around Thanksgiving until early March, we decided to keep the front gate closed off of Clay Pike Road
Okay.
because we had a few incidents there. When people used that front parking lot, they would slide down the hill.
Okay.
So really, it was more of a safety
Yeah.
issue for us on behalf of the township. And the second thing is we also wanted to expose that new parking lot that we
Okay.
put a lot of money effort into the back parking lot there, giving everybody a chance to view that as well.
Okay.
Two-folded, if
Yeah.
you will.
Thanks. Any other questions for the Park and Recreation for Mr. Miller? Moving on, police report, Mr. Mahinsky. Any questions on the police report? Anything to add?
No, we've been a little bit busy. We solved the case up at the high school, I mean, with a lot of cooperation from the high school administrators, but we haven't had an incident since. We're going on our second week without another incident up there. And it becomes a very expensive venture. I mean, to bring the dogs out from all over Region 13, it's pretty close to $5,000 in a crack. So, you know, you spend 5 or 6 of us up there in the evening going through, you've added another couple $1,000s to it. So one of those incidents can easily run, you know, probably $4,000 to $6,000, $7,000.
Thank you. Moving on, planning and engineering report, Mr. Blanco. Fire officials report. Any question on the fire officials report? Subdivision land development applications.
There are 3 applications before you tonight. The first is Site Plan 10 of 2017 and Subdivision 22 of 2017, the Lincoln Corner Site Plan and Lot Consolidation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The second item is Subdivision 4 of 2018, the Lions Plan. This is located on Myers Lane.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0.
And the last item is Site Plan 1 of 2018 and Subdivision 6 of 2018 for the Calvary Assembly Site Plan and Lot Consolidation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 7-0. Solicitors report?
Yeah, there's no report tonight.
Okay, moving on, Township Manager's report. Mr. Silka?
Okay, thank you. I have a few items for the board to consider. First is action to approve the February check register.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
The February budget report is presented for your information. No actions required. Third is action to approve the comprehensive Parks, Recreation, and Open Place Plan prepared by Environmental Planning and Design.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next is action to donate a Ford Explorer, currently marked as car number 10, to the North Huntington Township EMS Rescue.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next item is action to redirect $25,000 in the 2018 budget to survey and design work for Larwin Lane and Edgewood Court drainage improvement projects.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to authorize the bidding of ballistic vests for the North Huntington Township Emergency Response Team.
Action to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to authorize staff to contact the state legislative representatives and municipal associations asking for legislative action to have Pennsylvania adopt the most recent versions of the Universal Construction Code to address a deficit in the ISO rating system.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0.
Next item is action to authorize the expenditure of $1,110 to provide 7 North Huntington Township email domains to the 7 township fire chiefs.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to award the base bid of the 2018 fiber mat ceiling project, contract number 2018-3, to Russell Standard Corporation, P.O. Box 802, Morris, Pennsylvania, 16046, in the amount of $99,943.75.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Next is action to accept the resignation of Kristen Balavec from the Recreation Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to approve the submission of an application for the Next Phase Sync Up Grant, 4th cycle, and committing to a 20% match of funding.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to accept the tax appeal settlement for Diffenderfer Lacus Estate Partnerships for tax map number 54-07-10-0-115.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
The next item is action to approve a resolution for plan revision for new land development for the Lincoln Corner development.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0.
And I am asking for a consideration of another agenda item that was placed on today.
We need to put that on.
Yeah.
Put that on.
If a commissioner wants to add that to agenda, it wasn't actually on the published agenda. So
Yes,
if a
so the
board
appro-
member
yeah.
would like to add that to the agenda, we could do so now.
I'll make a motion, we add it to the agenda.
Second.
Okay, at this point, you should have public comment.
Okay, public comment, if Manager Solka, you want to actually briefly go over this, and then we can ask if there's any public comment on it.
Absolutely. What this is we're looking to sign a proposal with Ackenhow Engineers for geotechnical services for a landslide near 12601 Haywood Road. We have a massive landslide. We need to get some geotech investigation before we see how we go about correcting the fix. And the quote is $8,100. It's below the bidding threshold. It's a professional service, so bids don't have to be done. But we did get 2 different proposals on this.
Okay, thank you. At this time, if any residents would like to comment on it, since it was not on the official agenda, they can come up to the podium at this time. Seeing no citizens that would like to speak, we have a motion in place to add it to the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0.
Okay, so now it's on the agenda.
Yeah, we're gonna take
Now you have to
action
take a
now if
vote,
a
yeah.
board would like to take action on this.
Do you want me to read it or?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay, what I'm asking is for action to authorize Ackenhow Engineers Incorporated to perform a geotechnical investigation of the recent landslide near 12601 Haywood Road in the amount of $8,100.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other further board comments?
No, sir.
Announcements?
Okay, we have one announcement that the Easter Eggapalooza will be held this Saturday, March 24th, 2018 at Oak Hollow Park. This event is from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with the egg hunt at 12 noon. Don't forget to bring your baskets.
Thank you. I just need one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned. 7:35. Board of Commissioners will hold a short executive session to follow.